I am not supposed to be in Muncie right now. I'm not supposed to be in the United States right now. I made Aliyah more than 5 years ago, almost to the day, from Indonesia. But I am here in America because my father is very sick. Tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people around the world were davening for my father. Would you consider praying for my father? My father's name is Shlomo Zalman HaKohen Ben Leah. Shlomo Zalman HaKohen Ben Leah. He desperately needs your tefillot. Desperately. And that's why I'm here. Otherwise, I would not be here. Please, please daven for him. Another point, as we're here, I don't remember Muncie for a long time. I didn't know there were tents and buildings like this and fourche. I didn't recall any of this stuff. It's really quite beautiful. Getting lost in Muncie and going, wow, what's that? That's very interesting. But as we're here in an air-conditioned, gorgeous tent, a tent with a chandelier, I didn't come across this before. We should always keep in mind, Kinderlach, my holy brothers and sisters, keep in mind that as we're here engaging in the study of Torah, keep in mind, Kinderlach, that there's more than 100 Yidden right now who are nebuch in a tunnel being held hostage, who do not have the opportunity to sit and learn, who may not even know if it's day or night, if they'll live or die. They don't know. Our hearts are with them. They must come home now. Please keep them in your tefillot. So that's one enemy we have. That's one of the enemies we have. But as you know, there are others who are not seeking to destroy us physically. As you know, there are many people, they're not interested in physically destroying us. They're not interested in what our enemies sought to do on Purim. I am here because of a Hanukkah problem. There are those who want to destroy us spiritually. Listen like you've never listened in your life. There are nearly 1,000 organizations in the United States alone that are devoted and committed to converting every one of you and those that you love to Christianity. There are Messianic congregations all over Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, it's a stage 4 cancer. And for those of you who don't know it, there's no such thing as stage 5. It's a nightmare. In a sense, it's a greater nightmare there than here. Because in this country, it is inconceivable that any synagogue or any temple would have any shaykhus, would have any relationship with Christians, with any relationship with the church. It would never happen. Doesn't matter in a Chassidah Shalom or another, it just won't happen. But in Israel, because they consider these missionaries Israel's best friends, they're mamish baked in. It's a very serious problem. These missionaries have messianic congregations. I exposed just one of many here in Rockland County. They love Rockland County. There's a higher percentage of Jews in Rockland County than any other county in the United States. Approximately 1 out of 3 people who live in Rockland is a Jew. And they know it, and they're here. Hashem Yirachem. In the early 1970s, evangelical Christians gathered. In the early 1970s, specifically 1972, evangelical Christians gathered in western Switzerland, a city called Lausanne. That city should be well known to you because it's one of the oldest Jewish communities in Europe. They gathered to understand, why did the church fail in the past? Hashem Yirachem, to convert the Jews to Christianity. Why was it such an abysmal failure? After all, the church sent their missionaries to South America and converted up people overnight. Why in South America they speak Spanish and Portuguese? Because missionaries went there and converted them all. But the Jews, with all their problems, we can't convert? You understand that Europe became Christian mamish overnight in the blink of an eye. The Jews, this is a pella atzuma to them. Not only that, it doesn't even make sense. Their claim is, listen, Kindlach, their claim is that the truth and proof of Christianity can be demonstrated, Rachmanul Islam, from your Torah, from your Bible, from this. Who can read this? Only the Jews. Who could read this in the original language? Only the children of Israel. And the Jews, of all people, should be so difficult to convert? Moreover, who was in Eretz Israel during the 1st century when the Christian religion began? Who was there? Puerto Ricans? Eskimos? Who was there? Yidden, Jews. And it was your great-grandmother, it was your Elta Zayda that said, we wish we could love to have a Mashiach in the 1st century, but this is definitely not it. And therefore, the conversion of a Jew to Christianity was essential to them. And why didn't the Jews accept it? Bishlema, Chinese didn't. So Chinese are Chinese. They're too busy they're cooking too much in the restaurant. The Chinese, they don't have their, but the Jews were there. Why don't the Jews believe? There's a pelatsuma to them. And the Jews are the only ones who could read their book. Moreover, it is only the Jews that believed in the concept of Mashiach. Only the Jews believed in the idea of a Mashiach. The word Mashiach, the word Messiah, or in Greek, Christos, meant nothing to the ancient world. They mamish didn't know what it means. Christos means only to pour oil on somebody. If you're giving someone a shiatsu massage, that's a Christos. That just means pouring oil on somebody. It meant mamish nothing. So only the Jews were waiting for a Mashiach. Only the Jews could read the text. Only the Jews knew exactly what it said in the Holy Tanakh. Why don't the Jews believe? And the Jews have a reputation, and always did. And that reputation is not, or ever was, that the Jews were dummies. The Jews have, even among our good friends, they'll admit, all the wicked ones will admit, the Jews are a clever people. Right? If you want to get kicked out of a Klan convention, just say, I think the Jews are stupid, and they'll throw you out on your head because you're an idiot. They know the Jews are clever. They know their Bible. They were expecting it. They were there. Why don't the Jews believe? Therefore, only the conversion of a Jew to Christianity can lend credibility to the cross. I remember I was lecturing Nacogdoches, Texas. Nacogdoches, Texas, Kinderlach. And you're going, there's such a place? There's such a place. You haven't seen Texas until you've been to Nacogdoches. I'm not sure when I went to speak at Allen F. Austin University, and the room was packed. The fire department had to show up. There were over 1,000 people there, and it was more than the capacity. That's echtige Texas. Not like you go to Dallas or Houston, Epis, whatever, business. That's not Texas. That's Flatbush. This is echtige Texas. It's an hour from the Louisiana border. It's famous because when the shuttle crashed and it came down, that's where it... I remember I was lecturing and the audience was... I'm not sure, but I had a feeling that many of the people never saw a Jew in their lives. In person. I said this to the audience, to the Christians, and I could see they were looking at me like this. And one raised his hand, and he said to me, Rabbi, you're completely wrong. He said, isn't it true that the first believers in Christianity, they were all Jews? What are you talking about? The writers of the Christian Bible, almost all of them were Jews. Almost all, with the exception of Luke, the Gentile physician, they were all Jews. Always found it interesting that the one non-Jew in the whole New Testament, a doctor. But that's how things go. So I asked them, tell me something. Who should those Jews have been? The first century, who lived then? Tanoim lived then. Rabbi Gamliel, the elder, lived then at the exact same time. He's even mentioned in the New Testament. These were the contributors to the Mishnah. These are Tanoim, these are Malachim. If what you're saying is that our Tanakh, Chas v'Chalila, points to the veracity of Christianity, then who should those Jews get involved? They should have been rabbis, they should have been people who they should have been Tanoim, they should have been lining up. After all, they knew the text better than anyone did. Yet who were the first believers in Christianity? Were the sages? Were they rabbis? No. Who were they? Tax collectors and prostitutes, hardly those of our intellectual elite. This is a shock to the church. How could it be? How is it even possible? So it's only the conversion of the Jew to Christianity that can lend any credibility to the cross. Do you understand? To the church, we are a problem, a very big problem. And the Christian Bible tells its readers, go to the Jew first. Romans chapter 1:16. I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Many of you went to yeshiva. You know this. Do you get any of these jokes at all? This is too complicated for this section. I can slow it down for you. Is it too early in the morning and this is the night, people? Because these people are getting everything and you, nothing. Okay. The Jew standing, who are we? What are we? 15 million, maybe worldwide? A little pixel of nothing? The Jews don't believe it. Everybody else, they can. Brazil, Hashem Yirachem, I've lectured there many times. That's the largest Roman Catholic country in the world. Why don't the Jews believe? One other thing, Kinderlach. 1972, what does this mean? I remember it. 1972 was an epic time. America was going through a gefährliche moment between Vietnam and Watergate and all the crazy shtissim with hippie schmippies and all this. It was going through tremendous upheaval. But it was, in their view, a very critical time. Number one, it was 5 years after Yerushalayim was liberated. And in Tanakh, it openly says that Yerushalayim must be liberated by the Jews before Mashiach comes. Before Mashiach comes. We're even given a date of when it will happen. It's a pasuk in Daniel. It's Daniel chapter 8, verse 14, that tells us that Yerushalayim will be liberated by the Jews. I'm paraphrasing here, 2,300 years after Darius is defeated by Alexander the Great. Now, it doesn't say those two names. Daniel, by the way, the angel Gabriel is speaking in chapter 8, as I'm sure many of you know, and he's speaking about the the king of Macedon destroying the Persian Empire falling and the Greek Empire emerging. It's a critical time. Chapter 8 of Daniel is devoted to those two kingdoms. And it says that 2,300 years after that, Jerusalem will be liberated. One of the most famous battles in human history. What battle are we talking about? Very good. You know your stuff. The Battle of Granicus, 334 BCE. Take out the zero. Take out the zero and just go forward 2,300 years, and you are in the late spring of 1967. The Christians understand this. They understand the importance of this. And they understand Zechariah chapter 12. And I want to say this to you, brothers and sisters. Listen very carefully. Zechariah is not an easy sefer. I don't say it, Rashi says it. In fact, the only sefer that Rashi HaKodesh VaTorah gave a hakdama to. You know how much Rashi wrote in his life? You have any hasoga? How much he wrote? And he wrote it not like he was writing it up in Seagate or somewhere on a lounge chair with Word Perfect, whatever, I don't know, whatever they use. No, he was right in the middle of the Crusades, in the middle of the First Crusades. The only sefer he gave a hakdama to, he gives a hakdama to, what sefer is that? Sefer Zechariah. He opens up Sefer Zechariah and he starts with a Hakdama. He doesn't do it anywhere else. And what does he say? He says, I first of all want you to know, this is what Rashi was. He said, I want you to know, first of all, I don't have a Messiah for Zechariah. I don't. I do not have a Messiah for Zechariah. Moreover, Zechariah is a difficult sefer. It's full of stuma. It's full of hidden secrets. What he means really is that it opens up with 8 numinous visions. They're not that hard. It's not organic chemistry, but it's not so simple. So Zechariah is a shtickle difficult. It is. But the easiest chapter to read is chapter 12. If you don't read chapter 12, that reads like a Sefer Bereshis, nothing. And it tells you everything I'm telling you. So 1972, Jerusalem had just been liberated by the Jews. Moreover, they held that Yoshka is making a second coming by the year 2000. Whoops, okay. That means it's a little more than a quarter of a century away. The Jews have to be converted to Christianity before then. They discovered that the church had a number of problems with the Jews. What problems could they have had? What? The first problem, a public relations problem. The church has a PR problem with the Jews. That's interesting. What possible public relations problem could Christianity have with the Jews? For some reason, they concluded, after careful analysis, that for some reason inexplicable, Jews tend to equate Christianity with persecution. I know, crazy, right? So they realized they had to approach this in a new way, in a novel way, to overcome. I mean, Jews don't go see a church open with the doors open, or you're in Kennedy or in Newark Airport and you see a galach and you go, a galach, what am I chayav to see a galach? I hope I see more galachim today. This is the best thing ever. Most Jews, they're not interested, they don't want to see it. They watch from a distance. I know you do. When you're at a gate in LaGuardia, Hashem Yirach, if you're LaGuardia, it's not. But if, let's say, you're in Newark, you're at some gate, C67, whatever, I don't know if there's such a gate, and you see across the thing on the other side of the gate, there's somebody there, a galach, and he has a white collar, 2 galachim, and one nun, right? So what do you all do? You watch. I wonder what they're thinking right now. Why? Because it stirs us. It wakes us up. What is this? What's going on here? If you see a Hare Krishna with a shaved head, wearing orange pajamas, with payas in the middle of his head coming out, every Jew says the same thing. That poor mother, right? It doesn't stare us. It's weird. So therefore, they had to come up with a technique that goes like this. You're Jewish? Are you Jewish? We love you. Hoo-hoo, we love you. Love you. We love you so much. You know why we love you so much? because you're chosen. Oh, we love you. Baruch Hashem. We love the Jews. But just loving us to death, which they are, all missionaries trying to convert Jews today, all of them are Christian Zionists. All of them are. All of them are Zionists. Everyone. But they realized that just loving us to death wasn't enough. Jewish people realized that there's no relationship between Jews don't want to stop being Jewish, in short. Jews are proud of their Jewish identity, not you in Muncie. Even, let's say you have a sister-in-law, brother-in-law, whatever, who's not so firm, who would not come to... They still, most Jews will say, look, I was born a Jew, I'll die a Jew, I don't want to convert to another religion. And that's where you develop the technique, the method to say, when you become a believer and you know who, you're not converting to another religion. Oh, no, no, no. You're becoming a Messianic Jew, a completed Jew. It's the most Jewish thing you could do. I brought this with me. This is a Messianic Soul Winners card. It's their card that trains evangelicals how to convert Jews to Christianity. There are 2 rules about Jewish evangelism I never want you to forget. Rule number 1, in almost all cases, the person who succeeds in converting a Jew is a Gentile evangelical Christian, a goy, not a meshumad, not a Jew who's already converted. I know. There are some of you sitting here right now listening to me that know of somebody personally that got involved in one of these groups. And that's why you came here today. If you ask that cousin of yours, if you ask that person you work with, tell me who is the first person that ever witnessed to you, I can almost assure you it'll be a goy gomer, someone who was never Jewish. 2, it's not going to be a professional missionary. It's not going to be someone who works for Chosen People Ministries. It's this army of Gentile evangelical Christians that are they are committed to and are successful, Hashem Yirachim, in converting Jews. This is the Messianic Soul Winners card, a Messianic Soul Winners card. On the card, there are 2 columns. 2 columns. This column on the right says, don't say. Don't say. Okay? See that? Right here, on the right, don't say. So when speaking to you, don't say this. And on the left, on your left, there's another column, and on the very top it says, you can see from there? Let's go through some of the don't says and do says so you know what we're talking about. When witnessing to a Jew, well, this makes sense, don't say Jesus Christ. Do not say those words to a Jew. Most Jews don't go, Jesus Christ, what am I to hear those words? Say it more. I want to get more nachas. Most Jews, I heard it once, it's enough, let's get done with this. Don't say that. It doesn't sound so Jewish to say it. Do say, the Messiah Yeshua. That's nice. 2, when witnessing to a Jew, don't say that he should convert. They will never say you should convert to Christianity. Never. Say, become a Messianic Jew. What a machaya. A completed Jew and a fulfilled Jew. This is the best thing in the world. 3, don't say become a Christian. Apparently, it doesn't sound so Jewish to be a Christian. Do say become a Messianic believer. This is a big one. When speaking to a Jew, do not say never. Never say come to church. Jews do not want to go to church. They don't. You can't argue with them. Jews generally are not plotting to go to church. I never heard a Jew say, it's time for mincha, where's the church? I never heard this. Have you heard that? I never heard it. Look, let's be open, honest, we're together, we know each other, sufficient fear, again, let's talk, okay? Jews generally do not want to go to church. They don't. They did. You cannot force. Jews do not want to go to church. They don't want to go to shul. How are you going to get them into a church? Say come to a Messianic synagogue. They celebrate Jewish holidays. Passover is a big one. But everything we do, they interpolate in a Christian message. You know why the Jews have wine at the Seder? To represent what? Where do you daven? That's very good. Okay.
No.
And the matzah, I'm kidding with you. And the matzah, you know why Jews have not 1, but 3 matzahs at the Seder table? Why 3? Where do you daven? Very good. So we have to check every person out in this building. Okay. For the Trinity, the Av Ben, the Ruach HaKodesh, Hashem Yirachim. Do you know why? Do you ever notice that matzahs have holes in them? Do you ever notice that matzahs are perforated? You ever thought about that? I bet you never thought about it for a second. They have holes in the matzahs. Why? Because he was pierced and they had holes in him. You know why the matzah have stripes? Because Yashka had stripes. You know why the middle matzah is broken? I bet you never thought about that. Because he was broken. You know why that middle matzah is wrapped in a white shmata? You ever wonder? Because he was wrapped in a white shroud. You know why it's hidden beneath the Father? Because he was hidden away in the tomb. You know why he's brought back at the end of the Seder? Because he's going to return. There you go. Now you can say, what do you guys sign up? Before I take your questions, I want to address the most obvious question. Why are we so vulnerable? How could such a thing happen? Let me be frank with you. It'll be very easy for me to spend my time telling you how horrible Jews for Jesus is, and they are. They're a Baptist mission to the Jews. Their founder, Martin Rosen, converted to Christianity, became a Baptist ordained minister in the 1950s. Broke away from the American Board of Missions to the Jews to create Jews for Jesus in 1973, following 72. I could tell you how horrible Chosen People Ministries is. And I have centers in all the places where Jews live, including in Brooklyn, including in Manhattan. We could talk. I could tell you, and your mama should walk out of here, you'll need to, it's painful, it's not pleasant. I want to do what may not be comfortable. It's hard to look in the mirror. What are we doing wrong? I would suggest to you, my holy brothers and sisters, that the success of these missionaries represents the unpaid bills of the Jewish people. I would posit to you that these missionaries would never succeed if we were doing our job. These missionaries exploit our Tanakh, change what it says in the Hebrew Bible, alter it. Many of you watch my videos, I expose it. But there are people, Nebuch, that know nothing about the Bible they've been asked to abandon. And this is a nightmare. I'm going to tell you something, something from my father, I remember many years ago, we were driving in Passaic, down Passaic Avenue, Route 3. There used to be, right off of Route 3, there was a temple, a Reform temple there. It's now an Orthodox shul. It's a very early memory, but somehow I came to know that the rabbi of this temple was a woman, was a lady. And they had an odd sukkah there that was, it was just very odd looking. It was like a thing and they all walked through and that was it. I thought that was hysterical. And I remember driving and asking my dad, like, I was laughing. I was saying, they have a lady of a rabbi with a sukkah that looks more like a tomato plant. And my father said, they don't know any better, don't laugh at them. They don't understand. And in truth, it is the Orthodox Jews that are responsible. You can feel very comfortable here. You live in a community like I do. Lahavdil, but you live in Muncie. It's a remarkable place. I live in Yerushalayim, even more remarkable. You know that. But as it turns out, the Novi Yeshayahu tells us that the religious Jews, who are the servant of Hashem, have a responsibility. Two responsibility. Number one, to bring back Jews who are not religious. This is Isaiah chapter 49, verse 5 and 6. To bring back Shiftei Yaakov. And Hashem is going to amon it of us if we are silent, if we forget about those. Nebuch, so many Jews, even here in Rockland County, were so far gone. So the role of the Jew is, number one, to bring back the rest of Yaakov, and number two is to be an Or Lagoyim. It's not much there beferish. And who is the Almighty gonna hold accountable if we fail chas v'chalila at this task? A Jew who goes to a Reformed temple, he doesn't know anything. Mamish doesn't know anything. It's time to bring it home. It's time to bring home the Torah and to spread it, to understand the Navi. The holy words of our Nevi'im, where they are eternal oracles that are nitnu l'doros, and that's why they're in Tanakh. Go back to Tanakh, understand it, spread it. There's something marvelous that's happening in the midst of the pain that we're enduring. This is an Eis Tzarahi Li'Yaakov, as Jeremiah Yirmiyahu HaKadosh says in chapter 30, verse 7. Jeremiah Yirmiyahu HaKadosh lived during Churban Bayis Rishon. He saw terrible things in his life. He fought Jews who didn't understand the matziv. He hated lies. And he stood up against it. But in the midst of it, he says there's a day coming in the future that's going to be the worst moment in history. Eis Tzarahi Li'Yaakov, like nothing ever happened. But umimeno yivosheya, but from that, from those birth pangs, will come your deliverance. Let's bring it home. Let's bring the Torah to our holy brothers and sisters. Let us, the words of Seifania, Zephaniah HaKadosh, who lived at the same time as Yirmiyahu, that all the nations will speak, B'Sofa Brura, chapter 3, verse 9. We should be zeicher to see it quickly in our time. Thank you so much for having me here this morning. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה